When we were young, many of our parents warned us to beware of strangers. These disturbing encounters are a stark reminder why. From robberies and assaults to stalking and kidnapping, these videos are not for the faint of heart. Still, it is reality, and thanks to the popularity of cell phones and surveillance footage, we can watch the insanity unfold. This video contains some of the most disturbing encounters we've ever caught on camera. Let's get started.
Leave me alone! I did not touch you! I'm sorry!
Here's a video from Cleveland that shows two suspects literally terrorizing an elderly woman during a carjacking. The footage starts with the woman walking her dogs not too far from her parked Kia Forte. After a few seconds, the two suspects emerge from a nearby path and steal the keys right out of the woman's hand. In an act of defiance, she uses a cane or umbrella to threaten the boys, who begin rifling through her car looking for valuables. Meanwhile, her poor dog is just barking its little head off. One of the carjackers even goes so far as to kick the defenseless pup. At this point, it seems that the boys haven't found anything of value, so they decide that they'll need to take the whole car instead. That's when the first carjacker passes a gun to his partner, who points it directly at the poor victim's head. This causes her to stop resisting, though she is still pleading with the boys to let her go. Nevertheless, they drag her out of the way. One of them hops in the car and drives off while the other escapes on foot, but this wasn't an isolated incident. Just 3 days later, one of the same carjackers can be seen confronting two girls in a park, apparently demanding that one of them give him a ski mask. When they refuse, he gets back in the car and literally tries to run the girls down. Pretty terrifying stuff. Carjackings are big business. In the US alone, there are some 35,000 attempted thefts per year. This one, however, takes place in a Melbourne, Australia parking garage. It shows a man in a red coat running up to a white car that is backing out of a parking spot. The man then points a gun directly at the driver, who backs up into a nearby pole out of sheer shock. Though the man again points the gun at the driver, the person obviously decides that they have the advantage and speeds off towards the unsuspecting assailant. Despite their initial shock, it now seems apparent that the person in this car is a professional stunt driver. They not only fly through the parking deck, but squeeze through a closing steel gate, all while the would-be robber chases after them. What's his plan if he catches up? Who knows? Maybe he's part dog and just can't turn down a good car chase. In case you've forgotten that cars can be extremely dangerous, here's a little reminder for you. It's surveillance footage from Los Angeles that shows a fatal hit-and-run accident in Canoga Park, in which a 40-year-old man crossing DeSoto Avenue was struck by a car that failed to stop or even slow down afterwards. The victim is clearly behaving recklessly, crossing a busy street far from any intersection. However, he certainly doesn't deserve this. Just as he's about to make it to safety, a car comes around the corner and strikes him, sending him flying full 5 car lengths. Unfortunately, the man died at the scene. And as of more recent reports, the LAPD has no success in trying to find the driver of the car.
Oh, oh! Yo, what the happened? Oh, she's playing at.
Any woman will tell you that sex pests are a near constant threat. Fortunately, many women now carry some form of self-defense so that they can protect themselves from assault. This video from New York shows the aftermath of one such attack. The man in the blue jogging suit apparently groped this woman, who acted quickly by macing the man directly in the face. The woman is still threatening to spray the man as he repeatedly apologizes, all while trying to deal with the fact that he's been temporarily blinded by the pepper spray.
Shit is crazy, bro.
I did not touch you. I'm sorry.
Even once the man crosses the street to try and escape, the woman is still following him, occasionally spraying him with mace. This is a woman who is fed up. So, what do you say? Maybe keep your hands to yourself next time. Most of us tend to think of kidnapping as a crime that targets, well, kids. However, the truth is that adults are abducted all the time for one reason or another. Sometimes it's gang or mob related, sometimes it's for human trafficking purposes, and sometimes it's just so some criminal can get their kicks. This video from Chicago's Little Village shows a man and woman standing outside of a restaurant they own. Within seconds, several armed men jump out of a nearby vehicle. The restaurant owners throw up their hands, but the men quickly pat them down and begin taking items from them. They then try to force the man to unlock their car so that they can ransack that as well. Clearly dissatisfied with what they find, they then order the couple to unlock the restaurant door. After spending several minutes inside, they take the people and put them in the car, which has been parked on the street since the assault began. Chicago police said that the two were driven to several different ATMs and forced to withdraw money. Though it must have been terrifying for the couple, they weren't hurt, which is at least some consolation. Let's head over to England, where a brutal assault and robbery in West Midlands was caught on CCTV footage. You can see a 51-year-old man walking down the street, minding his own business. After several moments, he either drops something or something is thrown at him, causing him to turn around. At this point, one attacker reveals himself. While the man is distracted, the second attacker steps out of the shadows and punches the poor man so hard that he instantly collapses to the ground. With the man incapacitated, the first assailant begins going through his pockets while the second one keeps watch. The video is made even more terrifying by the fact that over a dozen cars pass by, doing nothing while the men repeatedly kick and stomp on the innocent man. In the end, he is left lying in the middle of the street for several seconds before someone finally stops to help. NYC subways have always been a haven for crime because they allow criminals access to victims away from the eyes of authorities, as well as quick means of escape. This video shows a brazen kidnapping attempt by a man who seems mentally ill. The man in all red appears to be trying to talk to a girl who is sitting across from him next to a sleeping man. It seems that the two are together, but that clearly isn't enough to deter the assailant, who nudges her foot several times in an attempt to get her attention. They have a short conversation, but it mostly appears that the woman is ignoring him.
No! Back up! Come on, get the fuck up! Get up! This nigga is trying to grab me! This nigga is driving me to the train! Yo, the nigga just had to scream at him, look! No, this nigga just had to scream!
That guy.
Look, this nigga right here!
The real drama happens when the train comes to a stop. That's when the man in red makes his move, literally picking up the girl and carrying her off the train. When the girl escapes and wakes her partner, the man just sits there patiently on one of the benches, as if half a dozen people didn't just see what he did. After it looks like he's going to be confronted by several passengers, the man gets up and simply strolls away. Even for a criminal, this is not normal behavior. Judging by the man's vacant expression, he has some serious issues going on upstairs.
This white nigga, look, this nigga has to grab, look!
Who grabbed you?
This white nigga right here, wake up! Hold up, first of all, we in the car. Please.
I didn't know. That was my daughter.
Him right here!
Grabbed you? I would have killed you.
Wait!
As you can probably guess from that last video, traveling on public transit can be tough. If something goes down, you can't just escape. Instead, you have to wait until whoever is driving brings the car, tram, or subway to a stop. This video shows what happened when a man brought a dead, bleeding raccoon onto the San Francisco Municipal Railway. The man, who is wearing gloves, a hoodie, and a mask, can be seen standing on the platform waiting for the train. Just as the train arrives, he runs to the sidewalk to pick up a dead raccoon. After boarding the train, he carries the beast through the rail car as if it were a piece of luggage. He then plops it down in the middle of the car, while several other passengers make the wise decision to change their seats. Once the train comes to a complete stop, most of the people clear out. At this point, the man simply places the dead raccoon on a seat and sits back, enjoying the extra space. After several minutes, he retrieves his furry friend and goes walking through the train station with it. One can only wonder what happened once he got the dead animal home. Believe it or not, some disturbing encounters don't involve people at all. Like a bad Stephen King movie, some terrifying situations stem from machines seemingly developing a mind of their own. In North Bay, California, a Ring camera caught the moment a driver lost complete control of their vehicle, which went speeding down the street, narrowly missing a pedestrian before ultimately crashing into a nearby house. This pedestrian must have eyes of steel because they are barely looking in the direction that the car is coming from, yet they still managed to react just in time to get out of the way. The driver of the car had suffered a medical emergency before losing control, so this was by no means their fault. Luckily, they were the only ones injured in the incident, and they are expected to recover. Here's an even more insane video, this time from Oregon. It shows a man attempting to steal a delivery truck while it's being loaded by employees. The incident occurs just before 4:30 a.m. on November 15th, when workers at Elephant's Delicatessen were putting foods and other items into a running truck. Surveillance footage shows a man walking across the parking lot and, upon taking note of the running truck, decides to hop in and take it for a spin. Just as an employee loads an entire cart of food, the truck begins to drive off, spilling items out of the back. One of the employees manages to hold on for a few seconds before realizing that it's far wiser to jump off. Luckily, the truck was equipped with a GPS tracking device which allowed police to eventually track it down. Even then, the thief put up quite a fight. The 29-year-old was eventually charged with a whole slew of felonies, including attempted kidnapping. Lots of people have fetishes. However, they are best enjoyed in private. This Arizona man did not get the memo on that. Instead, he's taken his foot fetish to the local car wash. Footage shows the 28-year-old crawling under several women's vehicles to look at their feet while they wash their cars. The guy moves from car to car like he's on some sort of spy mission, but the eye in the sky catches all. Apparently, this isn't the first time he's been arrested for this sort of behavior, which is unsettling to say the least. nobody ever suspects the mailman. Well, in this case, it was just someone dressed like a mailman. The incident occurred in Philadelphia several years ago. Footage from a nearby surveillance camera shows a mailman pulling a weapon on the father moments before securing his 9-month-old son in his car.
By the time I put my child in the car, I didn't pay attention. But I turned back, he behind me.
The assailant then holds the poor man hostage, putting him inside his home where he was tied up and pistol whipped. And he wasn't alone.
We don't believe it was a postal worker that committed this robbery, but somehow a person got hold of a uniform.
There were at least 3 other suspects who entered the home afterwards. They eventually got away with $5,000 in cash, an iPhone 7, as well as both car and house keys.
We do believe, based on the timing, that it's very possible that it was in fact a targeted robbery.
Luckily, the infant was unharmed in the attack, which, given the large amount of money, seemed to be targeted. Apparently, these men were under the impression that they were meeting someone who wanted to buy their PlayStation. However, when the man and his neighbor drove to the spot for the trade, they were ambushed by several people who then robbed them. Footage from the dash camera shows the 3 passengers being swarmed by the thieves, who pull each of them out of the car one by one. This terrifying footage comes to us courtesy of the so-called City of Brotherly Love, which often fails to live up to its nickname. The video shows a 60-year-old man walking along the 1200 block of North 53rd Street. At first, the 2 suspects are in front of the man, but they eventually turn around and head back the way they came, towards the unsuspecting older man. It's clear from the footage that the man is not in good health, which, unfortunately, makes him a prime target for opportunistic thieves. The female assailant first pushes the man down, with both of the suspects demanding cash and property. Despite the older man complying, the male suspect still shot him once in the stomach. He was transported to the hospital and luckily managed to survive. Here's another senseless attack on an elderly person, this time occurring on the steps of a church of all places. Footage shows a 68-year-old woman heading into a service at her Queens, New York church. A young man runs up the stairs to get in front of her. Out of nowhere, the assailant violently pushes the woman down the stairs, causing her to hit her head on the pavement out front. As she is incapacitated, he goes through her purse and pockets before running away. The terrible attack happened in broad daylight at about 8:30 in the morning and left the poor woman in critical condition. And to think, the robber only got away with a few $100 and some credit cards he won't be able to use. Now, let's head west to the mystical land of Hollywood. Though we often see the glitz and glamour of the area, the streets here are anything but star-studded. In this case, we can see another terrifying attempted kidnapping happening right in the middle of the day. The footage starts off with a young girl who is clearly being followed by an older man as she walks to school. Upon realizing this, she breaks into a run. The man appears genuinely disappointed that he didn't catch his target. The good news is that he was caught on camera, and so was his car, which means authorities will have a much better chance of catching him. Russia has always been a pretty wild place, and if you spend literally any time online, you know that modern-day Moscow is setting records for bizarre things caught on tape. This video claims to show a young Russian businessman being attacked by 3 assassins in the middle of a parking lot. This man is with a relative or girlfriend and appears to be helping her carry something from the car. Suddenly, 3 masked individuals hop out of the next car and give chase, shooting at the man, who disappears off camera. Moments later, he runs back across the parking lot just as the police vehicle pulls up, having heard the shots. Luckily, the assailants were quickly captured. Though sources were hard to find, it's claimed that this is the second assassination attempt on this man. Kind of makes you wonder just what sort of business he's in, huh? This video from Connecticut shows another brazen midday carjacking, this time in a Taco Bell parking lot. Surveillance footage shows the victim's car sitting in the lot when a man standing on the curb runs up and simply jumps in. Seconds later, the car owner emerges from the Taco Bell and immediately starts chasing the thief. Thanks to the window being down, he's able to get his hand on the wheel, preventing the robber from escaping while he's dragged across the parking lot. Finally, the man speeds off, but not before getting a good look at the assailant. Thanks to his quick thinking, the carjacker was eventually caught and will be sentenced for both theft of a motor vehicle and assault. Though he had a few cuts and bruises, the car owner's injuries were mostly minor. It's truly upsetting just how many of these disturbing encounters involve people attacking or preying on the elderly. Unfortunately, they make for easy victims in a lot of circumstances. This video shows an older man walking down the street near Baldwin Park in California. At first, it seems like the dog is barking at him in order to scare him, but it appears the pup might have been trying to warn him instead. Out of nowhere, a man jumps out of a parked car and punches the innocent pedestrian in the head. The older man manages to get up, at which point the assailant goes full MMA mode, dancing around as if he's challenging the dazed man to fight back. Luckily, the man was apprehended and the victim was released with minor injuries. Most of us have had bad roommates at one time or another, but here's hoping you've never had to deal with a person like this. Footage shows a temporary resident at a home in Southern California attempting to get inside of the house. When his code fails to work, he begins jumping against the door in a frantic attempt to knock it off its hinges. Unfortunately for those inside, it opens up and he's able to enter. Though it isn't clear from this angle, this man has just crashed his car into the side of the house, the classic beginning of a violent rampage. The next time we see the man, he's walking through the home carrying a pickaxe, which he begins to use on a door after missing several times. You can hear the poor man inside screaming for help, but it does nothing to stop the crazed man. Finally, he's able to do enough damage to the door to get inside. Fortunately, the roommate manages to subdue the now exhausted individual, allowing enough time for the authorities to arrive. It's clearly an example of a mental health emergency, but it's a good thing nobody was hurt, unless you count the doors. Some situations can be tough to sort out, even when there's video footage to help us. Such was the case in Renton, Washington, when a 19-year-old boy got into an altercation with an older man, resulting in the latter's death. Footage shows the younger man running up behind the victim, swinging a heavy-looking object onto his back and head. The man then gives chase, following the boy into the home. That's where police say the boy stabbed the older man several times. The teen is then seen making a phone call, most likely to his aunt. By all indications, the young man knew this person, who often worked as a handyman. Was it a case of mistaken identity or something else? We'll have to wait for the trial to find out. They say this type of assault is every woman's nightmare, but it should be every person's nightmare because we all have women in our lives we care about. Coming to us from the UK, this video shows a man who claims he's been rejected by women on his night out, attacking and viciously assaulting a young female student. You can't see much from the video, except that the man clearly changes direction after spotting the woman crossing the street and following her in an attempt to get her to a more secluded area. The good news is that the poor girl survived, and the man was thrown in jail for 12 years. That last woman didn't have much of a chance, but this footage from Italy shows that some girls are anything but defenseless. The security video shows a man running up behind the woman in the stairwell, at which point she hits him with her purse and makes an escape up to the escalator. Talk about quick thinking. Here's a Philadelphia man just trying to put some gas in his car. Unfortunately, he doesn't know that he's about to be viciously attacked by a gang of juvenile thieves. As he stands there pumping gas, one of the youths comes up behind him while another approaches from the side. After the first kid puts him in a headlock, a third person comes in and throws some punches, knocking the man to the ground. The boys then take the man's keys, hop in the car, and head off. Luckily, they were spotted by the police a few streets away. They fled the scene and crashed the vehicle, leaving us to wonder what the point of it all was. Here's another gas station carjacking courtesy of Philadelphia. The dramatic footage shows a van full of heavily armed men jumping out and surprising the poor man pumping gas. The man runs into the attached convenience store while the men hop into his car and drive away. Though it's hard to tell from the footage alone, it seems like this might have been about more than just the car. If anything, stealing the car seems like an afterthought compared to ensuring the poor owner was scared to death.
Get out of the way! Move! Oh my god, get out of the way! I have to go! Please stop! You're holding traffic! Stop! No! Go! Go!
This video is actually the best argument I've seen against driverless taxis. It shows two men harassing a woman, trying to get her number while she waves them on and begs them to let the car go. But they just can't take the hint.
Go! No! Get out! Get out! Move! Stop!
Had there been a surely foreign driver in there, he could have at least threatened to run them down. But at least for now, the robots are still programmed to not kill humans. Unless your address includes the word "under a rock," you might be aware that some US police officers sometimes behave badly when they think nobody is watching. This footage, captured at Covington Farm and Fuel Store in Pennsylvania in 2022, shows just such an occasion. The first thing you see is a man, Joshua Barracks, running through the back room of the store, apparently in an attempt to escape. He is then confronted by a police officer, at which point he drops to his knees with his hands on his head. The officer, however, decides to get really rough with Barracks, throwing him to the ground and roughly punching him in the face. It doesn't appear that Barracks was struggling before the officer started hurting him, but at this point, he seems to be fighting for his life. The officer even puts his full weight on the poor man in an attempt to subdue him. Barracks did need to be hospitalized for his injuries, and soon after sued the police department for $5 million. This one might need some explanation. The two people going up the stairs, they invited some supposed friends out for a drink, but the second they had a chance, they started speed walking in front of them. Why? Because they were going to rob her. However, this girl and her friend are no dummies. She even says she's got her tool out, which is sling for gun, in case they try anything. And guess what? They do. And it does not end well. Aside from the self-defense in action, the best part of this video is the random neighbor who thought that opening the door was a good idea after hearing like a dozen gunshots. School buses have the right of way. Always. They might not have the best drivers in the world, but that's the reason why they're painted yellow, so other drivers can look out for them. This driver saw a bus on the Massachusetts Turnpike and took it upon themselves to pull in front of it and then hit the brakes, forcing it to a stop. The driver seems to be flagging the driver down for some reason, so it seems like maybe the bus has a flat tire or some other issue that the driver wanted to warn them about. Nope. After failing to get in, the driver instead climbs into the front of the bus. Luckily, the bus was empty, so no kids were put at risk. In 2023, a CCTV camera in Chicago captured a distressing scene where a woman was robbed by 4 men. The footage shows the woman walking down the street with a suitcase when suddenly a car pulls up next to her. Seconds later, an armed and hooded man, followed by others, steps out of the car and approaches her with a gun. Despite the terrifying situation, the woman remains remarkably calm. The men steal her belongings, but interestingly, not her suitcase. And then they hop back into their car and drive off. Just thinking about the fear this poor woman must have felt really makes me angry at the thieves. Zara Alita, 35, a fresh law graduate working at the Royal Courts of Justice, was finally hitting her stride in life. Friends described her as the happiest she had ever been. But on the night of June 26, 2022, while walking home after a night out at a bar on Ilford High Street, her promising life was brutally cut short. That same night, Jordan McSweeney, a criminal with a history of violence, was thrown out of another bar for harassing staff and began roaming the streets. With 28 convictions for 69 offenses, McSweeney had been released from prison on probation just 9 days earlier. Authorities had tried to revoke his probation 2 days prior due to his failure to meet his probation officers, but their attempts came too late. Reports indicate that McSweeney approached several women that night, all of whom rejected him, before he encountered Zara. Surveillance footage captures his erratic and threatening behavior as he prowled the streets just before targeting her. McSweeney attacked Zara, dragging her into a driveway where he violently kicked and stomped on her. Zara was later found with severe injuries and succumbed to them at the hospital.
Zara Alina was just 35 years of age. She has been described by her family as a joy, a beloved human being, a friend, niece, cousin, granddaughter and friend to all. She was attacked while walking alone on a residential street. She had every right to be there. She had every right to feel safe. But instead, she was the victim of shocking violence. We are working tirelessly alongside communities and our partners to make sure women can feel safer and crucially safer in our city. Jordan McSweeney has pleaded guilty today to the most serious offences. He is clearly a very dangerous individual, and his guilty plea today means that he is certain to serve a considerable period of time behind bars.
McSweeney was sentenced to 38 years in prison. Let's end this video on a slightly higher note. After all, who doesn't like to watch the occasional racist Karen getting her comeuppance? The video shows a drunk woman standing by the gate of a community confronting a black man who is trying to enter.
I live here.
What?
I live here, man.
Who are you?
I don't need to tell you who I am.
No, who are you?
Man.
I'm on the board.
I don't care.
I don't care. You drive up here like a bat out of hell. You drive in, you drive out. Get in whatever you. So ridiculous. We have dogs, we have people, and you don't even care. So disrespectful.
Have a good evening.
Why don't you be white, won't you?
The man, who happens to be a successful music producer, informs the woman that he lives there. She then begins cursing at the man before making a nasty racist comment. The man later recorded a video explaining his side of the situation.
Home and driving to my neighborhood, the street to get into my neighborhood is very, very dark. And so I saw somebody kind of like jumping up and down and waving their hands as I was driving down the street. And I drive pretty slow. So I was like, why are they doing that? Like, why are they waving their hands so hard? So anyway, I went into my community, but I thought, man, Isaac, somebody could be having a medical emergency. Something could be wrong. If that was you, you would want somebody to go check on you. So I left my community. As soon as I got out of the community, I was approached by this woman just yelling profanity at me and stuff. So that's why I said, let me go home, turn right back into my community. And I said, let me put my camera out because I just want to make sure that I'm safe and record any exchange that I have with this person because I don't know if they live there or not. They were not inside my community. So I just proceeded to record the conversation and then go home after that.
It's a good thing he caught it all on camera since she's quote, unquote, on the board. As you can see, there are lots of ways to have disturbing encounters. Luckily, not all of them end in bloodshed.